WCBI News at 10 starts now.
Governor Tate Reeves is ordering all Mississippians to shelter in place. Thanks for joining us tonight at 10. The order takes effect this Friday at 5 p.m. and lasts till Monday, April 20th at 8 a.m. Courtney Ann Jackson has more from the governor's announcement.
Mississippi isn't totally shutting down, but Governor Tate Reeves is hoping the shelter-in-place order will slow the spread of COVID-19 and ensure the healthcare system isn't overburdened.
We believe that this is the right tool at the right time to save lives.
This order does not mean you will be locked in your home. You are allowed to leave for essential travel, including going to work at an essential business, picking up groceries or supplies, or caring for someone in the vulnerable population.
But if we can use this tool to slow things down such that we can process patients through the system safely and provide every single patient the resources they need to maximize a chance for recovery, that's what we're doing.
Reeves notes that the order will not drastically alter life for the majority of Mississippians who have been taking needed precautions.
I can't stress enough that the single best mechanism for enforcement is for individuals to enforce it themselves.
The guidelines of social distancing and no gatherings are still in place, but enforcement efforts will be stepped up, particularly to enforce the previous order of no gatherings of 10 or more people.
Downside of some businesses closing, you've got certain communities throughout the state where we're beginning to see clusters of people who are not working, and rather than staying at home, they're gathering in groups, and that is something that is leading to transmittal and group transfer.
But there are a few additional places being ordered to close, including beaches, parks, playgrounds, movie theaters, and other recreational spaces. Individual outdoor activity is allowed. Grocery stores will remain open, and restaurants can continue to operate with drive-through, curbside, or delivery. Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
We're truly living in a time like never before dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. Rules put in place seem to change every day. With today's shelter-in-place order, here we are again, changing the way we live. Our legal analyst Jeff Hosford tries to break down exactly what it all means for us.
Everybody's nervous. Everybody's scared. Number one thing that everybody needs to remember is remain calm. Be nice to your family, number one, because you're going to be with them for a little while. Be nice to your neighbors. Keep your distance from everybody.
The shelter-in-place order means just that, to stay home.
You're going to stay at your house unless there's a need for you to leave your home, and those needs would be medical emergencies, stores, gasoline, those types of things essential to everyday living.
In layman's terms, if you can live without it, it's something deemed as non-essential. The governor's executive order prohibits any type of social gathering of more than 10 people and orders non-essential businesses to have their employees work from home if possible.
Any place where people can gather and there's a large likelihood of spreading a virus will definitely be non-essential.
The new order will also be new to local law enforcement. Winston County Sheriff Jason Pugh says while they're going into the unknown, they're going to start making sure the shelter-in-place order is in full force. And one way they're going to do that is by adding extra patrols.
We've got a very strong, what we call an auxiliary force, a reserve officer force, and we've got some very strong volunteers that are prior law enforcement officers. We're reaching out to all those guys so we can start pulling things together. And basically, there's no playbook that we have on this. We're not doing something that we've done in the past. I've quite honestly never seen anything like this in my lifetime, and don't know of anybody that has. So we're kind of writing the book now. We're making our game as we go, and in all honesty, we're trying to think 2 steps ahead right now.
Again, as a reminder, that shelter-in-place, it starts this Friday at 5 o'clock in the evening, and it will remain until April 20th. Also in Winston County, inmates there, they volunteer to help fight against COVID-19. The 6-man crew is pitching in and sewing surgical masks. In just 3 days, the inmates have produced enough masks for all the inmates, staff, and courthouse workers to wear. They produce around 50 to 150 masks in a day. Corrections Facility Warden Neil Higgison says the inmates want to help out however they can during this trying time.
They see it as being able to give back to the community. A lot of them are there, they can't leave, they can't do anything to help their families or anyone else they normally would in times of crisis. And they see it as a chance to give back to the community. And they're not getting paid for this. You know, they can't get paid for inmate labor. They don't expect anything. They're just happy to get a chance to help out.
And says they plan to offer masks to any public service workers or hospitals that are in need. The Tupelo Public School District is going the extra mile to make sure students don't go hungry during the break from classes. Tupelo school buses are delivering hot and cold meals to apartments, neighborhoods, and meeting spots like the Haven Acres Boys and Girls Club. Dubbed the Meals on Bus Wheels, district cafeteria workers are preparing the meals for students and families who depend on breakfast and lunch from the school. Volunteers in churches and global outreach are helping with the deliveries.
We're able to distribute this right here where they are. For those who don't have transportation, it's a great opportunity for them to still be able to get the food, even though they can't maybe drive to there. But if they can walk this way, we can give them food.
The meals are handed out following recommendations from CDC guidelines on social distancing to stop the spread of coronavirus.
Pretty nice weather today. Clouds on the increase a little bit this afternoon and this evening. A nice sunset. We caught it with our Alpha Insurance camera in downtown Tupelo. There you have it. Hopefully you made the most of your Wednesday evening. You can see these higher clouds streaming on in from the west. No moisture falling from these. This is mid and high level moisture, but it's with us here tonight. Temperatures will still be on the cooler side later on tonight, mid to low 40s out there. So do expect a little bit of a chill in the morning, much like this morning, but by noon 65, tomorrow afternoon in the lower 70s. Around here, low 70s, a shot at some mid 70s to our southwest. Your full 7-day forecast in just a few minutes.
Our other top story from the day, the man killed in an officer-involved shooting in Columbus has been identified. 19-year-old Austin Hines died at the scene in North Columbus. Hines was arrested back in February and charged with felony taking of a motor vehicle, assault on a law enforcement officer, and felony escape. Sources tell WCBI that Hines led officers on a chase this morning, started on Ridge Road and ended on 22nd Street North. An officer involved in the chase did suffer minor injuries. After getting out of the truck after crashing on a nearby train track, Hines attempted to climb into a sheriff's deputy's truck. That is when he was shot and killed.
Mississippi Bureau of Investigation has arrived to investigate an officer-involved shooting. During the pursuit, the subject struck several other vehicles. The chase ended at Strawberry Street and 22nd North. The suspect wrecked the stolen vehicle and exited the car.
Lowndes County Coroner Greg Merchant says that Hines will be taken to the state medical examiner's office for an autopsy. An ACKERMAN man is accused of assaulting a woman and taking off with an infant. Dwight Holman is facing several charges, including child neglect. ACKERMAN police say officers were called to a West McGee Street home for a disturbance. They found a woman had been assaulted and that Holman reportedly left with a 2-month-old child. Choctaw County deputies spotted Holman, who later jumped out of his vehicle with the child in his arms and fled into the woods just off Highway 15 North. Several law enforcement agencies helped with the manhunt. Holman was found about 6 hours later. The baby was taken to the hospital and we're told is in good condition. The chairman of the Columbus Redevelopment Authority has passed away. 48-year-old John Acker died from a medical issue Tuesday evening. Lowndes County Coroner Greg Merchant says that Acker was in his vehicle when the issue happened. The vehicle left the road with no damage. Acker was also a longtime state farm insurance agent. Lowndes Funeral Home is in charge of his arrangements. I know a lot of people here know him as well. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Now we're going to switch things back over to Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson. Keith, another nice day. You did some yard work. I had the windows up. Please tell me we can do it in the next
I think we'll do it again tomorrow, too. So we can enjoy another great day coming up tomorrow. Scott, the country big and broad. Our national high today at the lower 48. Rio Grande Village, Texas, down there in Big Bend country, 99 degrees. But look at this, -8 up here in Idaho this morning. Wow, crazy stuff. It's not going to be that cold around here for a long time. We have some nice days coming. Details on that next.
Your WCBI First Alert AccuWeather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
We've turned the page on another month. We are now into April. Our average high today, 73 degrees in Columbus. Next month, May 1st, 80 degrees. And then look at that by the summertime, June, July, August, upper 80s, low 90s. That's where we're headed, but not so much in the near term. Tomorrow, a very nice day. Low 70s here across northeastern Mississippi and West Alabama. Get ready to soak it up. Perhaps a few more clouds out there relative to what we had today, but it still should be pretty nice with winds from the southeast at about 5 to 10. Here's our first alert forecast. We got Buddy. Apparently, Buddy loves WCBI. We'd love to see Buddy here tonight. Look at how happy. Great weather tomorrow, 71 as we mentioned. 74, a chance for a stray shower here on Friday. A chance for a few more showers here on Saturday, but 70s as we get into the weekend. Maybe 80 by Sunday. The risk for severe weather tomorrow, this little dot out there across the high plains in Kansas and Oklahoma. Friday, more so down here into Texas. Not so much around here, though. April is actually peak tornado season in Mississippi right here, also in Alabama. So this is the time that we all need to be on the watch out for any storm system heading our way. The bullseye for that tornado threat right now, right over Mississippi and Alabama. As we get into the latter part of the month by April 30th, notice how the bullseye shifts back to the west. Now, we're still in that high zone here, but as we get into May and June, that tornado risk is going to pivot back to the high plains and the northern plains and the Great Lakes away from us. So really over the next 45 days, we have to be on the lookout, and then we'll say goodbye to the major storm threat going into the summer. There's our Alpha Insurance Camera Network, our sunsets and our skyscapes from this afternoon. Now, we actually do have a frontal boundary coming our way, but this thing is really going to fall apart. It looks ominous here, but we'll see some clouds, maybe a few showers here Friday into our Saturday. But no big hoopla from Mother Nature this go round, thankfully. Hour by hour tonight, mid to low 40s by the time we wake up. Scattered clouds. We'll probably thin out those clouds a little bit. Low 70s in many spots tomorrow afternoon. Some thicker clouds tomorrow night into our Friday. Notice how there could be a few showers around. Not a lot of moisture here, but even with these additional clouds, I think on Friday we're back into the mid 70s here. So 71 tomorrow, mid 70s Friday, Saturday. A chance for some showers, even in the Saturday too. Sunday, 80, partly cloudy, very nice weather. 70s to low 80s next week. A better chance for some scattered storms. There's your AccuWeather 70 forecast. More of the show after the break.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're sniffling or sneezing a little bit, it could be spring allergies. We learn about some of the triggers in tonight's Health Talk with Baptist.
What is the cause of most spring allergies? The biggest spring allergy trigger is pollen, tiny grains released into the air by trees, grasses, and weeds for the purpose of fertilizing other plants. When pollen grains get into the nose of someone who's allergic, they send the immune system into overdrive. As the trees start to bloom and the pollen is released into the atmosphere, allergy sufferers begin their annual ritual of sniffing and sneezing. Each year, 58 million Americans fall prey to seasonal allergic rhinitis, more commonly known as hay fever. Pollen can travel for miles, spreading a path of misery for allergy sufferers along the way. The higher the pollen count, the greater the misery. The pollen count measures the amount of allergens in the air in grains per cubic meter. You can find out the daily pollen count in your area by watching your local weather forecast. Here are some of the biggest spring allergy offenders. Trees including oak, pine, willow, elm, hickory, and cedar. Grasses and weeds including Bermuda, fescue, Johnson, perennial rye, timothy, and ragweed. Allergy symptoms tend to be particularly high on breezy days when the wind picks up pollen and carries it through the air. Rainy days, on the other hand, cause a drop in the pollen counts because the rain washes away the allergens. Join us next time on Health Talk with Baptist, and we'll discuss some of the treatments of spring allergies.
Mail your topic suggestions to healthtalk@wcbi.com. Health Talk has been brought to you by Baptist Memorial Hospital Golden Triangle. Here's sports with Tom Ebel.
If you could define your time at WCBI, what were some of the biggest things that happened during your time?
Two things, and one wasn't necessarily a time-defining moment, but it's a moment that still impacts me today, and that is when State's star point guard from the Final Four run, Marcus Bullard, got sentenced to the penitentiary. And we went down to Gulfport to cover that. So here you have a team fresh off the Final Four, and all of a sudden Richard Williams, the head coach, is on the witness stand really pleading for Marcus Bullard not to go to prison. And it didn't work. The judge sentenced him to really hard time. Being in that environment and seeing how serious that was and how somber that was and the stakes that were involved, one of the reasons I chose to make a career turn and go be a lawyer. So that really stands out in my mind. The other thing, just from a big story standpoint, was the 1999 U.S. Women's Open hosted by Old Waverly. Old Waverly hosted that event, and there was a huge ramp up to that event, and WCBI just went all out for it. And they did sunrise on set out there, midday out there, 5 and 6 out there. Mark and I were out there. It felt like 20 hours a day that whole time. And to see that event be planned for 6 months in advance and then culminate during that week in West Point, Mississippi, that was really cool.
Chris, with that second story brought up, some definite memories of, because covering golf at that level was something that I had not experienced prior to that. So that was a whole new experience, a learning curve in regards to how do we cover this event, because it's more about the area and the pride of hosting a major championship than it is just about covering the golf itself. So that was intriguing as well. So yeah, that comes to mind definitely as a learning experience.
I came in, or I was there during a really weird time. And the reason I say that is because Twitter didn't start catching on until late 08 and 09. And I actually remember the day I signed up for Twitter in December of 08. And that kind of leads to, another moment that I had, and this involves Will actually. The day that Sylvester Croom got fired, we're still somewhat before social media at that point. And I think it might have been the only story I was actually able to break. We broke into programming to say that Sylvester Croom had been let go, or resigned, I'm sorry. And I remember calling Will that Friday, like, what do I do? I don't know how to handle this. Kind of give me an idea of how you would do this thing. That was difficult. And then I started using Twitter a couple of weeks later during the coaching search, because there was a Friday night, and I believe it was the first Friday in December, where someone from a station in Jackson incorrectly reported that Chris Peterson had been signed to a 4-year contract.
Oh, wow.
And I saw that on Twitter and went on live at 6 and said, look, this is a statement from Boise State right here that's saying he hasn't signed anything. And then a week later, they hired Dan Mullen.
I remember to this day, I went home for dinner. Obviously, my wife now, we lived together at the time in Columbus, so I went home for dinner. And then the Hugh Freeze thing came down. It was one of the biggest. My wife, we talk about it to this day. I sat down for dinner and I went, I have to go. And like the plate was just still sitting on my table. And it was just like, I had to leave and go.
You bring up the story on Hugh Freeze. I was sitting on the train leaving the Chicago Cubs game at the time on basically my summer vacation. And when that happened, I looked down at my phone and I uttered some obscenities that I have still never said ever again to this day. But at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So immediately I called you. We tried to get everything together. I will say to this day, I'm really glad I was not in Columbus for that and you had to deal with everything regarding that, because just the toxicity that came from it, the negativity, just everything that came down on Ole Miss and from Hugh Freeze regarding that is something that, I will never forget. I still remember after that, the big story that came out that I was the first one to break was Jeffrey Simmons being on video punching that woman. I was the first to get that video. I was the first to put out that story. I broke that story when it happened, and that was a national story. I still remember when that happened, like, you had to tread very cautiously, because Jeffrey and I actually became pretty good friends when he was a football player at Knoxville County. And to this day, not everyone is going to fully understand everything that went through it, because once you kind of rip open that Band-Aid again, you kind of expose that wound again, and then you have everyone who has an opinion wanting to bring their opinion into that situation. So I don't think anyone is ever going to fully comprehend everything that transpired with Jeffrey Simmons, but I think we see how great he is now with the Titans and how he really reshaped his image and how he became such an incredible young man when he was at Mississippi State.
Today was very nice. I think we're going to do it again on your Thursday, 71 degrees. Can't rule out a few showers here Friday or Saturday, but probably not a lot of moisture here Sunday. Very nice, partly cloudy, 80 degrees. As we get into next week, a chance for some more scattered rain and storms around here, Scott, with more 70s and 80s.
Hey, we like those temperatures. We just
getting better
need
and
this
better.
virus to go away so we can lay poolside or
Oh,
something.
no kidding, right?
Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.